Welcome back to the monthly AI Roundup. Now, for the month of June, we've got a lot of exciting and interesting stories to get to. So without further ado, let's dive in. Starting where we left off last month, because I recall we finished the episode by speaking on how Claude Mythos is the #1 threat on the horizon for companies, and we then went and echoed this exact same sentiment at the Oxford AI Frontier Forum earlier this month. Anthropic released Mythos Fable 5 earlier this month, and almost as quickly as it was released, it was then immediately pulled back. The US Department of Commerce on the 12th of June stepped in and told Anthropic that they had to bar any foreign national access to the model, citing national security concerns. Now, I don't raise this to alarm anyone, but it is worth thinking about because for the first time ever, we've seen frontier model capability put in the same category as advanced chips or weapons technology, where it's sitting under the remit of export control. And this brings that academic discussion of sovereign AI and AI sovereignty out of the academic space and into a very real discussion that countries need to be considering, as access to these different models is getting restricted based on your geography. In the same breath, Anthropic's commercial position has only strengthened this month. At the end of May, they closed around at $30 billion, valuing the company just north of $900 billion and putting them shoulder to shoulder with OpenAI as they both edge towards their public listings at the end of the year. They also made a very noteworthy hire this month, namely Andrej Karpathy, who was previously one of the co-founders at OpenAI. He also led the Tesla Autopilot program, and he's now joined to lead the pre-training research team at Anthropic. When one of the leaders of the frontier labs is moving to a competitor in the space, it's a strong signal as to where the markets are heading. The usage data continues to back up Claude as the commercial leader. Over the last quarter, their user base was up over 300%, which marks a fairly symbolic milestone moment, as for the first time in the last 3.5 years, ChatGPT's market share has now fallen below 50%. Gemini and Claude are now the fastest growing models, which is interesting because in the AI space over the last 3.5 years, the words AI and ChatGPT have almost been synonymous in the public mind, but we're now seeing signs that that era may be slowly coming to an end. But let's not write OpenAI off just yet. Far from it. They spent June tinkering with the GPT 5.5 series rather than dropping anything new. On the 9th of June, they pushed their personalisation down to the free and go tiers of ChatGPT, and they quietly retired the older 5.2 line, pushing all of their new users onto 5.5. Late in May, one of their models disproved the prevailing conjecture on the planar unit distance problem, a mathematics problem first posed by Erdos nearly 80 years ago now. This demonstrates that these models can not only summarize and reinforce what we've already learned, but that they can actually actively help us expand our understanding of the world around us and contribute to frontier knowledge. Over at XAI, Elon's lot spent the month doing what XAI do best, which is moving fast on about 5 fronts all at once. They pushed into coding, into video generation, and pushed onto all major cloud platforms. And speaking of Elon, this was a massive month for the wider empire. Fresh off its IPO, SpaceX agreed to acquire Cursor for $60 billion. An AI coding tool. That is the largest acquisition the developer tooling market has ever seen, and for a company which is barely 4 years old. Sitting alongside this is an outlandish statistic, where SpaceX now spends more than half of everything it spends on AI, a rocket company. Now, the announcement with the broadest reach for normal, everyday users comes, as it so often does, from the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference, where on the 8th of June, Apple showed off a Siri rebuilt from the ground up, running on the next generation of Apple Intelligence and powered by Google's Gemini. The new Siri's got proper on-screen awareness and an understanding of what's on your screen, so it can actually see what you're looking at and do something about it. But the bit I'd really point you to is this. For the first time, Apple is now letting third-party assistants, Claude included, work on your device. And that's a major shift in distribution. The models your teams work with day to day at their desks can now work away at the device in your pocket too. Of course, all of this progress has a harder edge to it too, and we do need to talk about the jobs. The layoff numbers for 2026 have crossed a pretty sobering line now. More than 100,000 tech roles gone this year. This month, the biggest example being Meta, who's cut over 8,000 workers, more than a tenth of its workforce, in a restructuring focused squarely on AI. And right across the sector, more and more of these layoffs are being attributed and pinned directly to automation initiatives. I'll give the same heed of caution which I gave last month, which is that there are a number of these firms using AI as a convenient cover-up for jobs that they would have cut anyway, but the trend is real, and it's hitting exactly the jobs you'd expect it to hit. So if you're leading a team, your job is now to automate thoughtfully, making sure that you're prioritizing on the parts of the business which can actually save you time and free up capacity to focus on what drives business. On the regulation front, two things are worth your time. The big one's in Europe, where they've softened their expectations of timelines on the AI Act. Under a provisional agreement reached in early May, now going through sign-off in June, with publication expected for early July, the highest risk systems and the most demanding obligations are now being pushed right back. For standalone systems, that's now December 2027. And AI baked into regulated products as far out as August 2028. For the small and medium businesses that we work with, that buys you some real breathing room. Over in the States, in Colorado, their AI Act kicks off on the 30th of June, which brings in a number of obligations, including annual impact assessments, risk management programs, disclosure duties, for anybody building or deploying high-risk systems. And then one I just couldn't leave out because it's not really what you'd expect to see in a monthly AI roundup. But late in May, Pope Leo XIV came out with an encyclical on artificial intelligence called Magnifica, Humanitas, all about protecting the human person in the age of AI. Interestingly, signed it 135 years, almost to the day after the Rerum Novarum, the letter that the church set out in response to the upheaval of the Industrial Revolution. Whatever your faith, or none at all, the symbolism is hard to miss. When the Pope decides that technology is as transformational as the Industrial Revolution, that's a fair sign that this is a good deal bigger than just another product life cycle. So that was June. Mythos turned up and got pulled straight back by the US government. Anthropic raised $30 billion at a $900 billion valuation and brought one of the co-founders over from OpenAI, Andrej Karpathy. SpaceX bought Cursor and went all in on AI. ChatGPT dropped below 50% market share for the first time. Apple put Claude on the iPhone. Europe pushed back its dates on its EU AI Act. Colorado implemented its own. And the Pope, of all people, weighed in on AI transformation. Quite the month. As always, any thoughts, disagreements, or questions, put them in the comments below. Subscribe, and if you would like help with your internal AI strategy, development, or adoption, please feel free to reach out to the team directly. Otherwise, I'll see you next month for the July monthly AI Roundup. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.